Hello, everybody. I've had a few people ask me about using Gargraves switches. Yes, I will say right up front, raw switches are better, but if you're on a budget and you'd rather use Gargraves, that's fine too, because that's what I'm doing here. So, what we have here is an 072 switch. The problem with the Gargraves switch is that they do not flow electricity. You have to um, wire this so you can, have electricity. So what happens is the center rail does not, Gargraves did not make the center rail, so it's got electric through it. So this, when you install it, is all going to be partially dead. So the only thing that'll have power is depending on which way your feed is going, is one side or the other. So what you got to do is you have to run a jumper from here, center rail, to here, and to here. Gargraves does have terminal ends like this, but I found they're, see if it'll focus. Yeah, there you go. I found they're very expensive, so I make my own. You can do this one of two ways. Well, let me not jump around too much. So yeah, I make my own ends. So what I'll do is I'll use like 20 gauge or 18 gauge wire, stranded. Some people ask, can you use stranded? Can you use solid? But I'll use stranded. And then I'll take the terminals and I'll wrap this wire around the center of it and then solder it on there. And then voila, you have your own jumper wire. So I'm using a Milwaukee battery powered solder gun, so I can take this thing anywhere. I love this. They just came out with this soldering gun. So no extension cord, no nothing. So if you're looking for a portable soldering iron, I've used this quite a few times. I've had it for like 6 months, and it works really well. And it uses the same batteries as most Milwaukee tools, in case you're wondering about that. But yeah, making your own jumper is the cheapest way to go. And basically, what you have to do is you have to jump this around. And this will install like this. Now, when you install these, you have to install it like this, because that's the way I actually soldered it. But depending on how you soldered it, this is the way they naturally go. But I found soldering them like this actually works out better, and installing them this way instead of this way, which is how they come, and it works just as fine. Now when you install this, you want to have room under here, if you don't want the wire showing, and then you'll drill a hole and then fish the wire through and then jump underneath so you don't see the wires. For me, it doesn't matter because I will be leaving this wire out because the ballast will be covering it anyway, because I use ballast, as you see, and you'll never see the wire. So I'm not going to go through the trouble of drilling this thing, crawling underneath, and running a wire to the other side of it. And I'll show you what it looks like when I get it all together here in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back. So you can see what's going on here. Basically, I soldered up my own jumper wire, and I'm jumping it from there to there, the center rail. Now, of course, if you're not using ballast, you don't want to see the wire, so you're going to want to drill holes and put the wire underneath of this so you don't see it. In my case, I didn't do that because I'm using ballast, and I'll be able to hide the wire with ballast, so it's not a big deal for me. But for those who are not using ballast or very little of it, it'd be nice and cleaner if you just drilled a hole, ran the wire under your layout, over, drilled another hole, and then back up again. Let me give you an idea what it looks like underneath. So there you go. Like I said, you can solder up your own if you're good with a soldering iron, and just literally jump to the other side. Gargraves says you cannot solder anything to this directly, which is why they want you to do it at the pins, because you could ruin the switch if you actually soldered wires directly to the switch. So the jumper wire should be done at the pins, not at the switch, because you can cause damage to the switch. Now, of course, you'll have to jump this out too, which I will do, but I'm going to do it in another spot. I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to do it down the other end. So you still have to jump this out too. Alright, so there's your Gargraves switch. And like I said, there was a couple people asking how to jump them out. And that's basically how you do it. That's it. But that's a Gargraves power terminal track, and you can supply power that way instead of soldering wires to the pins. Now, sometimes I'll solder wires to the pins because there's not enough room or not enough area to put one of these in. But they're pretty cheap, they're pretty reasonable, and they got screws in them, and you pretty much put your connectors on there for the inside rail, outside rail, and center rail, and that's done. So this is for those who are asking about my Gargraves switches, and a couple ideas on how to flow electricity through them. The early Gargraves track switches did flow electricity, but ones made in the last 5 years or so do not. I guess there's just too many problems. So you have to have some type of and you can see I got this one hidden. So you gotta have some kind of way to make the power source on all 3 points. For me, I got one there, one here, and that's power coming in. So that's what I did at this point instead of having pins. So hopefully this helps you guys out who want to use Gargraves. Yes, raw switches are better, but they're also a lot more costlier. I can buy 2 Gargraves switches for what one Ross cost. I will warn you that the best Gargraves switches that I found are O-100 and O-72. Anything under O-72 radius really just doesn't perform well, and at that point in time, I just tell you to spend the extra money and just get a Ross. But these Gargraves O-100 switches have been pretty reliable. This one is about 2 or 3 years old, and everything still works as good as it did when I bought it. I'm currently installing a couple of O-72 switches and did some test runs, and they work as well too. This is a Y switch. So here is another option you can do to power up the switch at all 3 points if you don't have the room for one of those Gargraves terminal tracks that I showed you, this little small straight terminal track. But at any rate, you can put a pin in here and then jump it over here. And then I have, so you can see easier. Of course, actually I ran out of black wire, so I had some red left over. And then jump that in here. And of course, all this should be under the layout, drilling holes and crawling underneath, which I'm not going to do because I can easily hide it in the ballast. So that's another option of making sure you have current at all 3 points of the Y or your switch.